悪いな。小さくて視界に入らなかった。
A tower where you can have every desire of yours fulfilled, whether it's wanting power, money, revenge, honor, or something even greater than that. There's no question as to why people would be willing to risk their lives to climb the Tower of God. The story begins with a girl named Rachel running frantically from a boy named Bam, who is trying to stop her from leaving. But even with all his begging and desperation, Rachel's desire to climb the tower surpasses Bam's tears for her. As the gates of the tower open, Rachel disappears, leaving him behind. However, something unexpected happens in the next few moments as the gates open again, taking Bam on the journey of climbing the tower. The tower guard head-on greets Bam and tells him to climb to the top of the tower if he wants what he desires. Rachel has been Bam's only companion for years. She found him trapped in a dark cave and kept him company, teaching him how to speak, read, write, and be the sweetest person to him. She used to share her desire to see the stars and the lit-up sky by climbing the tower one day, but he didn't know back then that it would mean he would never see her again. Determined to reach Rachel, Bam immediately accepts the challenge of climbing the tower and proceeds to his first test. He has to break a black ball that he can only reach if he defeats the giant white eel guarding it. Despite having no means of breaking the ball or attacking the eel, his determination is so strong that he feels ready to start the test. Just as Bam is about to enter, he is stopped by a woman and her navigator. She introduces herself as Yuri, the princess of Jahad, who has been secretly sneaking out and wandering around the testing grounds of the tower, where she is not allowed by the king. For some reason, she decides to help Bam, the irregular, and lends him her black march, a weapon that could be just a simple blade for some, while for others, it could be a sword capable of cutting through everything. Bam enters the vicinity of the ball and waits patiently until the eel easily attacks him. Yuri is stunned at what Bam did, but head-on remains calm and impressed, as it turns out to be part of his test where he had to conquer the fear of death. By stabbing the eel inside its mouth, he succeeds in surviving and causing the eel to black out. However, striking the ball proves to be useless despite his utmost strength. Frustrated, Bam starts hitting the ball continuously, but his desperate shouts awaken the eel. Not being able to take the thrill, the navigator shouts at him to ask help from the Black March in lending him its strength. Bam manages to realize it, and does so just in time, leading to a woman appearing from the march to actually help him break the ball. Yuri is left dumbfounded since the march never lent her any help. But the reason is not that deep. The spirit of the march simply has a preference for cute guys, which is why Bam received assistance and ascended to the next floor of the tower. This excites Yuri to continue trespassing even more levels in the game to see what happens with Bam. He is warned by the spirit of the march that things won't be the same for him and Rachel again, considering it lame that Bam is doing all this for a girl who left him. Bam loses consciousness as the spirit wants him. He wakes up on the grounds of the next level, where the task announced is to eliminate 200 out of the 400 regulars present there, and the fight for survival begins. Despite being the weakest, Bam manages to survive through sheer luck. The people who approach to attack him coincidentally get attacked by others and are killed before Bam can be harmed. However, the poor boy seems to be struggling to harm others. As Bam contemplates participating in the hunt to hurt others, a suspiciously calm guy named Kun appears, stopping him midway and referring to people who blindly obey orders as weak. However, both of them are interrupted by a large alligator-like being who's desperate to kill Bam, under the misconception that it will make him stronger simply because he saw the Black March in Bam's hand. Kun also notices the Black March and his intuition tells him that Bam is special. With a plan to form strong alliances, Kun saves Bam and becomes his partner. They both dodge Rak, the alligator, and hide from him and the others until the hunt is over. They manage to protect themselves from any harm because as soon as Rak discovers them, the level comes to an end and those who are still alive pass the test. Rak is forced to stop by Kun, as any person trying to hurt others after this would be directly eliminated. To advance to the next level, everyone needs to form teams of 3 within 5 minutes. It's hard to find 3 people in 5 minutes in such a large area, but Rak, acting like a dumb brain, still tries to kill Bam. Kun tries to knock some sense into him, urging Rak to become a team and avoid getting eliminated. Eventually, they are forced to choose Rak to form a team of 3. On the other hand, a lizard-like green girl named Anok and a guy named Hats team up after being unable to defeat each other in intense combat during the test. Their fight is witnessed by Shibisu, a non-serious looking guy who is greatly impressed and wants to team up with them. However, the 2 serious souls ignore him and attempt to find a partner. Due to the limited time, they end up having a seemingly useless Shibisu as their only option. Their next objective is given by Liro Ro, a ranker who has successfully climbed to the top of the tower and serves as the administrator. He forces them all behind a water-like wall he calls Shinsu, which is the source of the tower's power. Everyone must cross the wall to continue their journey, but according to Liro, it's based on everyone's luck on how easily they can cross the wall or whether they can even cross it or not. What nobody notices is that there already appears to be the first passer with the most extraordinary luck. Bam wasn't pushed back the slightest bit by Shinsu, shocking Liro and everyone. Bam and Liro engage in a conversation while everyone attempts to pass through Shinsu. Liro answers Bam's question about the difference between regulars and irregulars after they tie on a bet about who they think would pass the wall easily. Both of them voted for Anok, so Liro decided to answer any question by Bam. Liro explains that regulars are people who were born around the tower, while irregulars are those who force their way into the tower solely due to their strength. As Anok, Hats, Rak, and Kun pass the barrier effortlessly, Shibisu and some others manage to force their way through it. Liro takes his leave, leaving Bam with a confusing warning about getting too close to Kun. In the past, Kun's sister competed against Maria, his love interest, to be chosen as the princess of Jahad from their clan. However, when Maria was chosen, everyone blamed Kun for helping Maria in becoming the princess. The pact said that the family of the unchosen one was to be exiled. Kun had to face abandonment, accusations, and betrayal all at once, which made him a well-known figure within the tower. This traumatic past made him to follow his mother's advice of choosing his path and not trusting anyone. During the next test, which occurred one team at a time, Kun and Bam discuss the blue thing above them, commonly known as the sky. Bam asks if it's the same sky Rachel talks about, but Kun replies he has no idea whether it's the actual sky or merely a Shinsu illusion. Kun then shares his suspicions about Rachel leaving Bam alone just for looking at the stars, but Bam is unwilling to hear anything bad about her. While the two normal-sized boys hang out on Giant Rak's stomach, a plastic bag dummy mysteriously appears and guides them with a rumor, urging them to complete the test in 5 minutes to avoid being forcibly executed. A disbelieving Kun becomes infuriated when the dummy mocks him for his past, but Bam manages to stop him from being rash. As the test of the three begins, they are greeted by another administrator named Han, who also side-eyes Kun and passes weird comments about him. They have to choose the correct door within 10 minutes, and the ticking clock puts Bam and Rak with an invisible panic. While Kun experiences mental distress due to the situation, which triggers his past trauma. However, just a second before the 5-minute mark, Rak instinctively opens a door, saving them all. The test was basically checking their sanity under pressure, checking if they could open any door within 5 minutes. The administrators also wanted to see if the dummy's hint serves as good or harmful to them. As they all relax in the hallway, Liro offers a bonus test to make things interesting. In this test, all teams must fight to steal a crown and have one team member sit on a chair wearing it. The person sitting on the chair is not allowed to get down, and the team that possesses the crown at the end will be declared the winner. The losing teams will continue, while the winning team will directly gain access to the top of the tower. There are several rounds of the match, so naturally, everyone decides to wait for the later rounds. Consequently, in the start, only 2 teams challenge each other, with one of them being Anok's team. Anok, known for her toughness, single-handedly defeats the other team in the shortest amount of time. Surprisingly, Anok herself sits on the seat with the crown, inviting other teams to try and fight them, which shocks poor Shibisu. As the other teams are allowed to enter the zone, Bam notices a hooded girl who seems a lot like Rachel to him. Bam calls out to the caped girl sitting in her cell, but there is no response, leading him to believe that she is not Rachel. Since Anok has taken the throne, Shibisu and Hats have to fight against other opponents. 2 teams emerge to face them in the second round out of 5. While Hats handles one of the teams, the other team is Laura, the guy who has been passing all the tests while literally sleeping in his burrito blanket. Laura patiently waits for Toll, while his teammates manage to distract Hats and Shibisu away from the chair. Seizing the opportunity, as soon as they are distracted from Anok, Laura surprises her with a wave of Shinsu, a power that nobody knew he could control. Anok awakens, furious at being disturbed and challenged. She decides to kill everyone around due to her temper as short as her height. But as she uses her weapon, Green April, it weirdly affects the Black March with Bam, and makes it really hard for him to keep it under control. Liro, who has been observing the event the whole time, is disappointed with one of the princesses of Jahad, none other than Anok, for acting out on her emotions. Anok is furious and easily has the situation under control, making Laura regret underestimating her. However, he is saved from her wrath when she senses the presence of the Black March. Anok halts at sensing the Black March and forgets everything that is happening around her. She jumps off the chair, disqualifying her team, just to face Bam and take the march back from someone she deems unworthy of it. Being a brat, Anok is ready to kill Bam, who does not give in to her threat. However, Liro intervenes, stopping her from causing any more chaos. As Anok and her two disappointed fellows return to their cell, they pass by the team who's been wearing capes all along. In Dorsey, the girl from that team mouths the word imposter to Anok. Once again, Anok becomes infuriated and attempts to attack Dorsey, but Hat stops her from causing further trouble. As Bam's team enters the testing ground, Kun finally shows his great skills and the purpose of the briefcase he has been carrying since the beginning. The briefcase apparently contains a black hole, as he absorbs everyone's attacks into it and places the crown inside. He then demonstrates another ability of his bag by producing a copy of the crown and throwing it at others, fooling them. This allows Bam to sit on the chair with the actual crown. Confirming Bam's suspicion, Rachel is indeed a member of the Cape team. However, what Bam doesn't know is that when Dorsey casually mentions causing harm to others, Rachel agrees without a moment's hesitation. The third round turns out to be an easy one since Rak finally got a chance to utilize his energy. He defeated the others in a single blow. In the fourth round, more teams come out, but Kun stops Rak from fighting. He then ties up his hair as if he's going to fight, but it turns out he was carrying not only infinite stuff but also 3 allies in his briefcase from the second test. He was very serious about making allies in this game, so the people who were slightly injured were given a safe environment by Kun in exchange for their unquestionable loyalty to him. And just as decided, they simply defeated the opponents for the fourth round and disqualified themselves by walking back to a cell. Rachel's team and the rest came out in the last round, but the major threat was this masked girl in a full bodysuit who could easily defeat others. As the fights continue, Rachel and her team start guarding Bam and the crown with no interest in winning, which confuses Rak and Kun, but they nevertheless fight the others. Rachel and a mute monster guy from her team stand near Bam, while Dorsey swiftly fights the masked lady. Bam is too shocked to realize that it actually is Rachel standing right in front of him, but he can't go up to her. She doesn't let him get up and whispers that they won't hurt him, but Bam gets agitated, wanting answers from Rachel, and he keeps trying to talk to her as he stands there, ignoring him. At last, the masked girl manages to get away from Dorsey as Dorsey's heel breaks at the perfect moment. The woman swiftly dodges the monster and attacks Rachel to get to Bam, but Bam jumps out of the throne himself to save Rachel and gets his head busted. Everyone observes the scene bewildered, while Rachel doesn't understand why he'd do that. It would have been the end for Bam if it weren't for the spirit from Black March appearing right on time once again and saving him, along with creating a sharp blow that destroys the crown and harms the masked woman's face. All this chaos ends up being for nothing, since no crown meant no winner. Everyone's exhaustion and Bam's injury make the administration give them a few days break before their next objective starts. During the break between tests, a meeting between Liro and the administrator, Han, unfolds that there's much more to this competition than what meets the eye, with secret rivalries, imposters, snitches, and unrevealed feelings and relations. As Kun wishes for Bam to wake up before the next round start, he is interrupted by Rachel, wanting a favor from him. Rachel requests Kun to hide her identity from Bam since she does not want them to become a burden for each other. However, Kun can relate to this situation based on his own experiences and realizes that Rachel is thinking about her own well-being rather than Bam's. Being certain that Rachel is selfish and not good for innocent Bam, he doesn't want Bam to suffer the same fate as him. Therefore, he decides to hide Rachel as much as possible from Bam. Rak shows his concern for Bam despite his outward desire to fight him. As Bam wakes up, he is told that it was not Rachel, and the woman denies knowing Bam at all. Bam falls silent but does not show it, yet he is pretty certain that it was Rachel. He understands when Kun tells him that even if it was Rachel, she definitely does not want him around, and hence she lies. Kun updates Bam on the next test, which is based on everyone's training in their selected positions. The 5 battle positions include fishermen, who are the core of the battle, and spear bearers, who act like snipers, attacking from afar. The Lightbearers guide the paths and gather information, while the scouts assist fishermen by analyzing enemies' movements. The wave controllers direct the battle by using Shinsu. After analyzing their previous tests, everyone is assigned positions, and Bam is chosen as a wave controller. Fortunately for him, his trainer has been unavailable, so he didn't miss any of his training. As Rachel hides in her room, everyone seems to be getting along due to an assignment for the scouts to make 9 friends in a week. They have lunch together, and banter between Endorsi and Anok reveals that Endorsi is also a princess of Jahad, while Anok expresses her dislike for Endorsi and becoming friends with others. Anok also warns Bam not to return the Black March, even though its spirit clearly rejected communication with her. Bam is an honest person who has no intention of getting the march back either. As everyone trains, a test for the fishermen positions brings Anok and Endorsi face to face. Anok uses this opportunity to attack Endorsi, who keeps calling her an imposter. Endorsi once again mocks Anok because everyone knows that the princesses are not daughters of the king but just showpieces representing powerful tribes. However, this is not the reason why the little green lizard is receiving mockery from Endorsi. In reality, Anok is not the real princess, she is actually the daughter of Anok. To avoid confusion with the same names, we will refer to the real Anok as Anok Sr. She is using her mother's name while trying to climb the tower. While working as a light bearer, Kun looks around for information on Rachel and Bam, but does not find much. Continuing his training, he focuses on others and notices the story behind the princesses' rivalry. The chosen princesses of Jahad were not allowed to have intercourse to avoid the transfer of power. However, Anok Sr. trespassed, ran off, and got married. She went into hiding and was successful at it for a good amount of time. Unfortunately, once she finally got caught, she was murdered. Anok Sr. ensured her daughter ran away with her husband to keep them safe while she burns to death. During their intense fight, Anok finally manages to push Endorsi off the height they were fighting. However, as Endorsi falls, she pulls Anok down with her. The two princesses end up seriously injuring each other and losing all their energy points on their medical bill. To help Shibisu and Hats from failing their friend-making task, Bam and Kun aid them by help the two injured princesses to become their friends. They do so by treating them to delicious food that they can no longer afford. Laura's teammate Ho has a hard time as a wave controller and feels unconsciously jealous of Bam for learning so fast and so well. As everyone blends into each other's company, Endorsi observes Rachel being all alone every day, getting an apple as her food and being isolated in her room. She meets Rachel in the washroom and shares how she hopes her desires are actually worth betraying such a devoted guy for her. As Ho has a hard time, a weird message left on his door offers him something in return for helping him pass. He nervously takes the letter to his room. Rak initially had a hard time in his training, but feeling insecure and conscious, he trained so hard as a spear bearer that he passed his test and does not have to take part in the final test of the tag game. As the game is announced, Bam turns out to be on the other team, as Kun and Shibisu making the situation conflicting for them as friends. Kun's team sets the bait for Quant, another ranker who's rather simple-minded and short-tempered. Quant takes the bait thinking Shibisu is there and takes down the lighthouse along with the light bearer other than Kun as well, but he misses out on Anok. The real It is hidden and ready to attack him. But the princess is not as strong as she thinks and uses her green April to throw her around and give a show of his power. Lyra worries since he knows Quant's patience is very thin, and this could be harmful to Kun's team. Quant shows a great deal of self-control and leaves Anok. He then halts himself and gives the team 111 seconds to succeed, suggesting taking stairs to the top of the building while Anok can go through the elevator. It's hard to tell if Quant gave them the leniency as a second chance or just for his amusement. The gigantic dark stairs have the whole team of spear bearers attack Quant, but Quant does not even take a minute to dodge more than half of them. Kun's strategy does not seem to be working yet, confusing Liro, who thinks they're gonna lose this way, while Han and Rak suggest waiting patiently to see what unfolds. Rak is accompanied by the weird monster guy who was previously part of Rachel's team and observing the game, sitting with the administrators and munching a bunch of chocolates. Bam worries about Rachel's negligence towards all this, knowing that she won't pass if she keeps herself isolated. Endorsi observes the poor concerned boy and sits by him to console him that she'll pass. As Quant reaches the bridge that Anok is supposed to pass to win, he doesn't find her there and instead meets Kun, who simply tells him that Anok jumped off the bridge into the dark randomly. Quant can't believe his words, so Kun uses a fence as a weapon and mentions Quant being scared to jump, knowing that he'll act on impulse. As expected, this infuriates Quant. But to his shock, Quant picks on how she must be sitting on his lighthouse that has been dimmed out, and grabs Cud to jump along, knowing once Kun is out, his lighthouse will break, harming and defeating Anok. But as repeated by Rak, nobody should underestimate Kun. He double-crosses Quant by tying the lighthouse to himself through a rope and balancing each other against it on either side of the bridge. As Quant falls, Anak moves up and starts running across the bridge. But to another shock, their team still doesn't win. As Anak reaches the end, Quant awaits her surprisingly and succeeds in stealing her badge. But this is not the actual plot twist. The twist is that Kun and Laura assisted Quant since the real teams were not the ones announced, but the ones that were labeled as the Scouts' friends. Still, Kun plays along the whole plot well by acting disappointed and pained about the team losing, after he willingly took the lead of it. The others fall for his dramatics and console him about working well. As Team A fails, Team B with its mismanagement and a forceful lead by Endorsi spreads out in trying to outsmart Quant. Endorsi coaxes all the fishermen of her team to the top floor. Even though the decision sounds weird, everyone agrees with her just because she's a princess. They have no idea that her motive is to get rid of them in order to win. But Bam is not impressed by the betrayal and calls Endorsi out on it. As a princess, Endorsi has spent her entire life in competition and knows that the only way to survive is by being a traitor and a murderer. Even among the princesses of Jahad, there is discrimination based on the influence of the tribes to which they belong, and since she doesn't represent a stronger tribe, she was constantly mistreated, until she finally decided to get rid of all those who discriminated against her. So it's no surprise when she asks Bam to do the same for the sake of Rachel. However, Bam has different values when it comes to the people he cares about, and he refuses to hurt others for any reason, even though he can recall Rachel mentioning to him about hating on the ones who were bad to her. In the midst of this argument, one of the fishermen tries to sneak up on Endorsi and harm her, but Bam notices it in time and saves Endorsi from any harm. He then conclusively tells her that he cares for his friends, and he is heading towards Rachel to protect her, even if there's a chance she hates him. As he goes down, Ho has taken Rachel hostage with the excuse of wanting to discuss something important. He knows that hurting Rachel would automatically make Bam withdraw from the competition since Bam is solely participating for Rachel, and once she's removed from the equation, Bam would walk out himself. First, he faces Hats on the staircase and witnesses the two other spear bearers abandoning him to flee. Quan easily defeats the three and then witnesses the scene of Ho blackmailing his own teammates. Ho can no longer bear the frustration of feeling weak, so he stabs Rachel. However, he quickly realizes that the letter was actually a trap for him more than anyone else. Bam tries to process all the trauma, but there's a game he needs to win in order to bring an end to all the chaos. Quant tries to counter Bam by using a technique with Shinsu and teaches him that mastering this technique can render a person motionless. What Quant didn't know is that Bam had a natural talent as a wave controller, so he was surprised when Bam immediately grasped the technique and used it against Quant. Even though he stabs Rachel, he feels so disgusted with himself that he ends up taking his own life. A clever move by Bam and Endorsi leads to successfully fooling Quant and achieving victory against him, which shocks the ranker and leaves him feeling frustrated. On the other hand, Rak is confused about the disappearance of the monster guy who was with Rachel and Endorsi right after Rachel was stabbed. Kun is concerned about the events that occurred during the tag, when a furious Rak knocks on his door. However, when Kun looks up, he doesn't find a giant gator. Instead, he finds a scaled-down gator standing at his door. Rak was wandering around the corridors when he accidentally bumped into the administrator, Han, and began teasing him about his height before even realizing who he was interacting with. Shortly after, Rak was turned into a tiny being by an angry Han.
悪いな。小さくて視界に入らなかった。
Kun and Rak engage in banter over whether Bam would continue with the tests or not, when Bam himself appears and reveals to them that Rachel's wound has paralyzed her lower body. Despite this, Bam still wants to take her to the top of the tower to fulfill her wishes. Kun is impressed and wonders if his life with Maria would have been different if he had supported her in the same way. After Bam finishes explaining his impressive motive, he notices the smaller version of Rak and looks at him with confusion. Nevertheless, Kun and Rak agree to support Bam in every possible way. The only remaining issue is that Rachel's injury has made her ineligible for the next tests. At Ho's funeral, Rachel apologizes while acknowledging her selfishness in considering Bam a burden and abandoning him for her own desires. However, Bam's selfless devotion to Rachel leads him to continue supporting her. When the test results are announced and all their friends pass, they try to convince Han to let Rachel proceed. Kun, wanting to help Bam and protect the innocents and light his eyes held, hence he took to himself to discuss with Liro what could resolve the current problem. Liro informs him that only an administrator's test can grant them the ability to make decisions for themselves. Hence, Kun decides to take the administrator's test and challenges Han, unaware that only irregulars can participate in these tests. This leaves Kun confused about what to do, but then Bam steps forward to take the test. Rachel is once again surprised by Bam's unwavering devotion to her, leaving the others speechless as they had no idea that Bam was an irregular. Irregulars are considered a taboo in their tower and are considered as dangerous by regulars. Han offers people an option to support Bam and Rachel in this test. While some people are uncertain about being outcasted for supporting an irregular, most agree to support Bam due to their affection for him. Others choose to support him because it will shorten their path to the top of the tower. The final test is the underwater hunt. Bam and Rachel will be enclosed in a shinsu ball and be underwater, along with the fish that the net dolphins hunt by creating a net using their shinsu. Their task is to get swallowed by the net dolphins and then thrown out onto dry ground since obviously, the dolphins won't accept them. The challenge begins as the process of the food chain comes in between. Giant wetworms and barnacle goblins are creatures that steal fish from the dolphins, while the dolphins themselves flee if they detect a striped earth pig nearby. The last creature to be worried about is the bull, which is strong enough to be avoided even by rankers. The remaining members of the team have the responsibility of ensuring the dolphins' hunt goes smoothly. The spear bearers and scouts are on the lookout for worms and goblins respectively, while Shibisu and the princesses are tasked with guarding against the earth pigs. However, sudden chaos ensues when Hatsu's companions disappear without warning, most likely due to an attack by the bull. Shibisu expresses frustration over the princesses disappearing, even though they were supposed to guard together. Shibisu's rant is cut short when he's disturbed by none other than the mentioned danger, the bull. He tries to flee the situation but finds himself unable to do so. However, before the bull can touch him, the princesses finally appear, distracting the bull's attention away from the flabbergasted Shibisu. But of course, nothing is intense for the princesses of Jahad, so the two casually make a bet on who can defeat the bull first. They both get 5 minutes each to fight the bull alternatively. Dorsey goes first and deals with the bull pretty well, but not well enough to defeat it. At the end of the 5 minutes, the bull suddenly flees, frustrating Anok, whose time to shine was about to begin. She furiously follows the bull, unaware that this had been a trap for her all along. The creature who has been acting as one of their trainers turns out to be the murderer of the actual princess, Anok Sr. He had only came to eliminate the daughter and retrieve the marches. This is both shocking and infuriating for Anok, as the murderer of her mother is standing right in front of her and grinning about the sick act. She tries to fight the monster, but the creature is strong enough to successfully manage to stab Anok. On the other hand, as the poor Dorsey tries to fight the bull that is being controlled by that creature, she notices an increase in the bull's strength, making her realizing that its previous strength was intentionally toned down. However, this realization comes too late as she is defeated by the bull. Instead of being killed, she's brought to that monster who's planning to kill Anok. His ill mind decides that a better and more psychotic way of killing the poor girl would be controlling Dorsey's mind to have her kill her niece. A mistake from one of the spear bearers catches the attention of the goblins, causing them to chase the team instead of focusing on stealing the fish. Chaos engulfs the entire team, while Bam and Rachel remain unaware, awaiting their victory. The high-ranking division ranker thinks he has successfully controlled Dorsey. When he commands her to attack Anok, she simply complies, but Dorsey ends up messing with the ranker and helps Anok in attacking the creature. However, they severely underestimate the creature's power, and he ends up defeating the two and using Dorsey's attack in defense of Anok as treason by her. As the sick monster tortures Anok, considering her crime as simply being born. Yuri finally finds the test grounds after wandering through the towers all this while. She appears at the site when the creature is about to retrieve the Black March and claims it is hers. Unexpectedly enough, she's the one with the most strength amongst the princesses of Jahad, and she's not at all amused by someone harming who is supposedly her sister. She easily fights off the creature who thought he dared to fight the princesses. But the ranker is still sick enough to laugh about this, call this treason by the princesses. Just before being killed off by an annoyed Yuri, he reveals that the bull was sent to attack Bam and Rachel, the two who were yet sitting idle while their team fought with their lives for them. Anok and Dorsey convince her that Bam knows how to manage on his own. And indeed they were right, as the two are attacked by the bull. Bam, even after being seriously injured, managed to defeat the bull at the perfect time, as the dolphin swallows the fish in her net. However, they are about to be swallowed by the dolphin. Rachel moves her hand towards the extended one of a sweet Bam, who's excited to have her wish fulfilled. however, the selfish traitor in Rachel to come to the surface again. Most unexpectedly and coldly, she stands up and pushes Bam out of the net into the depths of the water. Meanwhile, she gets swallowed by the dolphin, and Bam gets swallowed by the depths of the ocean in Betrayal. Rachel was never the chosen one to be summoned to the tower. It was always Bam, but when she accidentally got summoned, she begged Head-On to give her a chance. Interested in trying to prove how unworthy she is, Head-On shows her the white eel test, which she reckons impossible to pass by herself. So Head-On mocks her for being weak and decides to show her why Bam is the real chosen one, by making her witness his courage and determination in the first test moments after being summoned. Head-On gave her a reality check on her stupid thoughts and selfish dream of wanting to see the stars. He rightly calls her a person with a bright outside but an ugly and dark personality on the inside, since he knows her aim is to be known as a star and not just look at them. At her consistent begging, Head-On decided to give her the challenge to kill Bam while traveling up the towers to succeed. Driven by her selfish desires, jealousy, and hatred for Bam, she accepted his offer right away. But she's still pathetic enough to be demanding a weapon like Bam's to compete with Bam. Impressed at how petty her thinking is, Head-On granted her the bodyguard who accompanied her, acting as a shield for her. The creature was supposed to be her one chance of resurrection if she dies in this competition. Hence the monster disappeared as soon as she was stabbed, and hence she was unharmed later and only pretended to be paralyzed. The masked lady in full bodysuit has also always been a navigator of the tower disguised as a player, who kept aligning the events till Rachel finally got an opportunity to fool Bam and betray him in the worst way possible. As everyone thought Bam was killed, they're distraught about losing a precious friend and decide to climb to the top of the tower with Rachel for him, unaware of her dark heart and her lie about the paralyzes. As Rachel stands perfectly fine in her room, laughing like a maniac for finally getting rid of Bam and winning the situation, everyone talks about the actual star and supports Rachel only because he did. When they all meet to be finally elevated to the tower, Kun whispers to Rachel how she's lucky about everything. The stupid woman, however, remains unbothered, blinded by her dark nature. Lero is finally done with all the weird stuff happening during the process, and resigns from the administration to travel independently to find answers on what has been happening around. What none of them knows is that Bam was made to believe dead, but he was actually saved by the navigator woman. As the poor boy regains his consciousness, he's all over the place while trying to accept the reality of the situation. The navigator woman offers to train him and guides him to the top of the tower. Just as expected by the navigator and Han, an enraged Bam decides to climb the tower to face the dark reality of what lies there. The truth awaits to be unveiled once Rachel and Bam come face to face at the top of the tower. That concludes the anime recap. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'm out.
ゲーム終了。じゃあ面白くない。